What's up, everyone? This is Brock again with the House of the Strong YouTube channel. Now, on today's episode, we're going to spark a little controversy. And how are we going to do that? We're going to talk about the best strongman for the past decade. Now, I understand the last decade ended in 2019. I got it. I get it. Don't bust me up too much for it. But today, we're going to talk about from 2010 to 2020. All right. Now, I couldn't look at every single possible strongman contest that went across the world. So I took a look at a few of them. Those being World's Strongest Man, Arnold Strongman Classic, World's Ultimate Strongman, which has only been around for 2 years, okay? And then we also included Strongman Champions League, Europe's Strongest Man, and then also national strongman titles as well. Now, what I did was to get scores for everybody and to kind of rank everybody, I gave them a point value. Now, for the big three contests, which I consider to be World's Strongest Man, Arnold Strongman Classic, and the World's Ultimate Strongman, even though it's only been around for 2 years, okay, I gave them a certain point value. And essentially, I gave them kind of like how World's Strongest Man scores people, right? 10 points for first place, 9 points for second place, 8 points for third place, so on and so forth. All right. And the reason I included the World's Ultimate Strongman is because they invite everyone that they possibly can, essentially, right? They're inviting people from Europe's Strongest Man. They're inviting people from the Giants live events, the Strongman Champions League, World's Strongest Man, Arnold Strongman Classic. There's a couple Middle East shows that they're inviting people from. So they're really all inclusive, and it's pitting really the best of the best against each other. Of course, there is some overlap, right? Some people are winning at Arnold Strongman. They also are winning at World's Strongest Man, and they may be winning at Europe's Strongest Man. So they do have some overlap, but those are the three. So I assigned them those types of point values. Now, for the rest of the shows, Europe's Strongest Man, Strongman Championship League, and the National, I essentially gave them 3 points for first, 2 points for second, and 1 point for third. Okay. And that's how I scored them. And that's how I got these numbers. Now, I don't necessarily agree with the numbers as how they came out, but it does raise some interesting questions. The only thing I didn't include was world records. And the reason I didn't include world records is because each one of these men has so many across so many different areas. And then they were broken and they reset them and whatnot. It was just so much information to go through. So I went off basically these shows right here. All right. So let's get over here to the athletes. So first up, we're going to have Zydrunas Savickas. Now, everybody knows him, 4 times World's Strongest Man, but we're going to talk about this decade. So he won World's Strongest Man 3 times. I'm not going to go into too much of the details because I do have that PowerPoint ready. All right. So next up, we have 4 times World's Strongest Man, Brian Shaw. Now, he did win all 4 of his titles in the past decade. All right. Next up, we're going to have Halfworth Bjornsson. He only won it 1 time, but he had a lot of second and third place finishes, and you're going to see that's going to affect his numbers some. Okay, and then I also included JF Caron. Now, JF Caron's been 9 times Canada's Strongest Man, and he's consistently been finishing in World's Strongest Man finals, and not only finishing in the finals, but the past 6 to 7 years, he's finishing 5th or better. So we'll see his numbers as well. So we're going to hop out of here real quick. We're going to look over here at our numbers. So here we have it. All right. So this is a spreadsheet. Now, as you can see, Zydrunas Savickas, he's going to win World's Strongest Man 3 times in the past decade, 2010, 2012, 2014. He'll finish second 3 times, 2011, 2013, 2015. And what's interesting is when he's second, it's because he's second to none other than Brian Shaw. So Brian Shaw, he's going to finish 4 times in the first place position, 2011, 2013, 2015, 2016. He takes second in 2010. Now, he also takes third in 2014, 2017, and 2018. And during this time, he's going to take he'll finish in the finals 10 times. Zydrunas will only have 8. There was a few years, specifically here at the end, that he did not compete. And a lot of that has to do with injuries. I mean, Zydrunas is getting older, but he's still competitive. He still wants to compete. So when he can, he definitely does. So Brian Shaw actually has the record for the most World's Strongest Man finals. I believe it's 12 right now. Record for World's Strongest Man finals in a row. Here we have Hathor Bjornsson. He won in 2018. See here, right here, he has 3 second place finishes, 2014, 2016, 2017, and he has 4 third place finishes, 2012, 2013, 2015, and 2019. And then he has 1 sixth place finish. JF Carone, he hasn't won or been runner-up at World's Strongest Man, but this year he did finish 3rd. But here's the big numbers right here for JF. He finishes 4th one time, 5th 3 times, 6th one time, 8th one time, and then 11th one time. So he's been in the finals, and the past, like I said, 5 to 6 years, he's been consistently at the top. And that's why I included him on this list. I think he was deserving to be on this list. Now you're gonna say, well, Brock, what about, Mateusz Kielkowski, right? Well, before 2015, he's not in a show. So yes, he has done well, but he doesn't have the amount of years to be able to make up the points. When you see the point totals, you're gonna be like, wow, you're not gonna make up those points, right? And I'm not saying that he is not a great strongman for the past decade. He definitely is. But when we're looking at the top, I mean, you look at just the World's Strongest Man and Arnold Strongman Classic for the past, from 2010 to 2020, that's 22 shows. 22. 16 have been won by these 3 men: Zydrunas Savickas, Brian Shaw, and Hathor Bjornsson. That's 73% of the shows are won by one of these 3 men. Okay? So that's why, I could have added in a bunch of other athletes, but with these 2 being the biggest strongman shows, right, I figured we'll throw JF in there. I think he's definitely deserving. Okay. So now we'll look at the Arnold Strongman Classic. So Zydrunas, he does have 2 wins, 2014, 2016. He finishes 2nd twice in 2010 and 2015. And then he finishes 3rd twice, 2011, 2012. Brian Shaw will win 3 times in this past decade, 2011, 2015, and 2017. He'll take 2nd 4 times, 2013, 2014, 2016, 2018, and he has no 3rd place finishes in this decade. Hathor will take, he'll win the Arnold Classic 3 times, 2018, 2019, 2020. He'll finish 2nd once, and he'll have no 3rd places. JF Carone, he was at some of the Arnold Strongman Classics, but he did not place. And then next, we're going to skip over Europe's Strongest Man for a second and run right over here to World's Ultimate Strongman. Now, it's only 2 years that we have this, so it's a limited amount of data that we have. But we do have Hathor winning in 2018 with Brian Shaw finishing 2nd. Zydrunas would only compete in 1 year, and he'd finish 10th in 2018. In 2019, Brian Shaw would take 4th. Hathor, he only competes 1 year. JF Carone, he'll take 4th in 2018 and 7th in 2019. Like I said, World's Ultimate Strongman, it's an up-and-coming show. Lots of money involved. I think $75,000 for the top winner. So it's a big show, and it has a lot of competitive athletes in it. Like I said, if you look at World's Ultimate Strongman information page, they even say, like, we're trying to make the most competitive strongman show. So they've invited all these people, all these winners, top 5 finishers, top 3 finishers from all these different federations to make sure it's all inclusive, to make sure there's no stone left unturned. There's no possible way. There's no way to argue. There's no controversy. Unless someone pulls out for an injury, right, or just doesn't want to compete, you're going to have the top strong men across the planet. Okay. So next we'll talk about Europe's Strongest Man. Now, this is those 3. Remember what I said at the beginning. Those scored like World's Strongest Man does. All right. First place gets 10 points. Second place, 9. Third place, 8. Right. And down the list. Okay. Now we look at Europe's Strongest Man. Now, these Europe's Strongest Man, and then also you have Strongman's Champion League and national level competition. If you took first, I only gave you 3 points, second 2, and then third 1. Okay. Mainly being is that Europe's Strongest Man, only 2 of these athletes could even participate in them, right? Zydrunas and then Hathor. So, and you can see here, between the 2 of them, they make up 8 of the Europe's Strongest Man. Zydrunas will win in 2010, if I can get my words out, 2012, and then 2013. He doesn't have any second or third place finishes. Hathor, on the other hand, will win it in 2014, 2015, 2017, 2018, 2019. And then he'll take second in 2016. Okay. So Hathor being very dominant on the European circuit for sure, which is, I don't think, any surprise to anybody. And then Strongman Champions League, the only one that really participated in Strongman's Champions League was Zadrunas. And he was the overall winner in 2012. Now, he did compete in other years, but he did not, as an overall champion, did not place. So, and I didn't want to exclude Strongman Champions League because I know they're part of the qualifier, I believe, for World's Strongest Man. So I didn't want to exclude them. They do send athletes to the World's Strongest Man. And then also World's Ultimate Strongman is taking athletes for qualifying for World's Ultimate Strongman. I shouldn't say they're taking, but they're using them as a qualifier. So I thought it was only right to include it. So I added it in there. Now, the only points that anybody's getting out of this is Zadrunas, and he'll get 3 out of that. At a national level competition, Zadrunas has at least 6 Lithuania Strongest Man. The reason I say at least, because when I'm looking for this information, there's a couple years that no one knows who won, and there's no data. So I'm assuming either they didn't hold it, or the data is just not there. And I can't find any news articles or anything like that. So he has at least 6. Brian Shaw would win America's Strongest Man twice. Hathor Bjornsson would dominate Iceland's Strongest Man for the past decade and win it 10 times. And then JF Corone also would dominate Canada's Strongest Man and win it 9 times. So just in those alone, let me look here. When I added this up, Thor is getting 30 points off of national strongman competition, and then also JF Corone's getting 27. All right, so when you add all these points up, right, and I didn't add all those numbers in here. You can see I did have world records over here. I was going to try to include some of that and come up some sort of point recognition for that. But when I started looking at world records, it just became apparent that there's just way too many different world records at the moment. I'm still compiling all that information for this channel. So at some point, we will be doing a world records episode as well to see, who owns the different world records and what they even are. So, all right. So we'll start 4th place as far as these points total go will be JF Corone. He had 76 total points. Okay, 76. Next would actually be Zadrunas Savickas, Big Z, with 145 points, which I was a little surprised. But, not taking any 3rd places at World's Strongest Man. Although, 6 years, he's either 1 or 2. So, you can't really argue that too much. And then I guess the World's Ultimate Strongman definitely hurt him. It's only been 2 years. It's later on in his career. He finished his 10th one year in 2019. He doesn't even compete. So, that definitely hurt him some. Coming in second will be Brian Shaw with 158. Okay? 158. That leaves Thor taking first at 169. Okay? Now, remember what I just said earlier. Thor took 30 points just from national championships. Okay? So we take away the national championships. We're at 139, which would put him below Big Z. But if you take away the national championships from Big Z, then that's 18 from him. So he would actually finish ahead of Zadrunas. So it's kind of an interesting. So we have number 1 being Hathor Bjornsson, number 2 Brian Shaw, number 3 Zadrunas Savickas, and number 4 JF Corone. Now, those are the numbers that I calculated, okay, off the way I decided to score this. Now, I do not agree with this, okay? Reason being, you look at World's Strongest Man and then Arnold Strongman Classic, I would argue that Brian and Zadrunas are definitely better. Now, the argument for Thor is he's been consistently, and in the top 3. I mean, 7 years he didn't win. Okay, compared to Brian, 4 years that he was in the top 3, he didn't win. And then Zydrunas only 3 times when he didn't win did he make the podium. So, you know, making that podium definitely, I mean, it helped the numbers out for sure. I mean, he finishes, Thor finishes 3rd 4 times, and then he finishes 2nd 3 times. So that's 32 points and 27 points respectively from those 2 categories. Now, he only got 10 points from winning it, whereas Brian gets 40, and Zydrunas makes up 30 for finishing first. So in my eyes, I don't think, based off I guess these power rankings, if that's what you want to say, these power points, Thor is technically the winner at 169 to 158 of Shaw. I don't agree with that as far as how the numbers came out, which is weird because it's my math. I'm the one who came up with the scoring system. So, you know, how am I going to argue with my own thing? To me, if I'm looking at this and I'm looking at this spreadsheet, and I'll pull it up one more time. All right. Pull it up one more time. So if I'm looking at this and I'm seeing this spreadsheet, I think for me, for the past decade, right, from 2010 to 2020, which is like a decade and a year. Okay, it's 11 years there, if you're doing math. To me, I'm going with Brian Shaw with Zydrunas almost dead even with him. I'm saying Brian just barely above Zydrunas. Okay? And the only reason is, you know, Brian has 4 World's Strongest Man titles and 3 Arnold Strongman titles, whereas Zydrunas has 3 World's Strongest Man titles and he only has 2 Arnold Strongman titles. So that's what I'm basing my decision off of. Plus, he did better in the World's Ultimate Strongman. He was actually able to compete both years for 1. And then on top of that, he finishes way better. He finishes 2nd and 4th, whereas Zydrunas finishes 10th in the 1 year that he does it. Thor has to be one of the most consistent strongmen out of this decade. He makes the World's Strongest Man finals 9 times, and he podiums 8 times. And he ties with Brian Shaw with podiums. The only difference is Brian wins 4 times. And then now where Brian has an edge is definitely in the Arnold Strongman Classic, where he has 7 podiums to Hathor's 4. And then Zydrunas has 6 podiums in the Arnold Strongman Classic. So I think for me, for the past decade, what I'm going to say is, here we go. Brian Shaw was the best strongman from 2010 to 2020. Okay? Now, Zydrunas being 2nd right behind him, and then Hathor Bjornsson taking 3rd. All right? So let me know what you think down in the comments. Who was the best strongman from 2010 to 2020? I know this is a controversial subject, and we just got to look at just those years, okay? Anything before 2010, I didn't take into consideration, right? Because we're talking about this decade. So let me know down in the comments what you think. Is it Big Z? Is Big Z your favorite? Is Thor your favorite? And then who, despite your favorite, who do you think was the best strongman from 2010 to 2020? Let me know down in the comments. Hey, if you like this video, if I can talk right, if you like this video, make sure you smash that like button and go ahead and subscribe. We got a ton of more content coming out, if I can talk once again. Okay? Remember, the House of the Strong, go out there and be strong. We'll catch you guys later.